Hey guys, it's Brer. I'm making this video today. I was gonna, my goal this week is to make a video every second day, but it's the second day and I've made a video every day, so not every second day, even though it's only 2 days. Um, the, re- the reason I'm doing that is I'm sort of trying to flesh out some thoughts I have about religion. Reason being is essentially in my life, I feel like I'm on the right track in most things. Um, I feel I'm moving towards the career I want to move towards in a pretty good fashion, although I want to change things up and focus even more on it soon. That's something I'm going to think about in the future. Tomorrow, I'm going to plan that out. I've got, I got a job, I got a house, I live in. Everything is pretty much covered, and I'm just slowly chugging away, mining away at this goal, which is very fulfilling for me. Um, the things I'm lacking in my life is basically I've gotten rid of pretty much all my friends. I have basically these friends I see it from high school, like once every 6 months. I love hanging out with them, but we've got different life goals and stuff. So and we're pretty introverted. So yeah, we don't hang out. And um, yeah, that's my biggest goal. I don't really have solid friendship relationships. I'm working. I want to get it better. Relationships with my family. I'm focusing on that. I'm slowly getting better with my family, and you know, um, a romantic partner isn't something I'm thinking about now, but definitely one in the future. So you know, but for the main part, I'll just say, I want a good friendship group. And so I was considering for a while, and this is what this video about is joining an Orthodox church. And the reason I thought to become Orthodox is one, I've been studying comparative mythology and religion, and symbolic worldview, which sounds like mumble jumble, but I'll flesh it out more in in a bit. And they seem to really have a good idea of the symbolic meaning of the Bible, and they also have carried the traditions of Christianity through thousands of years, and so they like I watched one video, because I don't know too much about it, but it was a Catholic church, yeah. Um, but like basically everything in that church, like the flooring, uh, with like the windows, the tinted glass windows, stained glass windows, um, just everything in it had like symbolic meaning, and it was sort of like anywhere you looked, you could like focus in on like this little bit piece of artwork, and it would have like this huge story behind it and huge amounts of meaning, interpretation, and like you could spend 10 years like sort of studying around that thing, and it was embedded in this other artwork which represented this whole different thing but also connected with it, and it was like it's like everywhere you looked it was like this infinite um, potential of like trying to understand, um, I guess I would say God and like the human spirit, and it's just yeah, it's just very interesting, and like I don't know, it's very deep. But I grew up in a Protestant church, well, Pentecostal, which is a section of Protestantism, and essentially the churches are, you know, what's the just not the word's not hall. You get what I mean. Just uh, four four walls, and there's a cross in the middle, but there isn't really much of this symbolic imagery and whatnot. So that's why I wanted to join the Orthodox Church, because um, symbolic meanings and of stories, and yeah, it's all just extremely interesting to me. Um, but essentially, I've had a conflict, and that is what this video is about, me trying to figure out that conflict. And I'm gonna explain it badly, and but being but I'm gonna try and explain it, and I'll do the best I can. So essentially, I was ever since I've been 18 years old. I'm 23 now. I've been an atheist, and the only thing that has sort of brought me back a little bit is listening to a ton of Jordan Peterson. I watch his lectures pretty much every day. His 2014 through 2017 Maps of Meaning and Personality lectures. I've listened to all of them at least once, and I'm going through my second round. Um, and what he talks about, and I guess I should get into why I'm so interested in comparative mythology and religion, why I'm trying to study and stuff, is I want to make movies or films, because the films, how can I explain it? When I watch a really good movie, it it touches a deep emotional well within me, and and would give me something, because I can't really explain in words, something like a transcendental experience. Like, the experience I have when watching certain movies is like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Coming from an atheist, it would be like a spiritual experience. And so essentially this movies has led me in this journey of trying to dive down into what the heck this experience is. I guess, to be less vague, because it's annoying me how vague it is, one of my favorite movies of all time is Arrival. And essentially, and this isn't a spoiler because it's sort of at the start of the movie, but I guess spoiler if you're really pedantic about spoilers. The first 5 minutes of the movie, maybe 2 minutes, I don't know, somewhere between it. It basically shows this mother and daughter, basically daughter being raised, and the connection between the mother and the daughter growing up to be a teenager and contracting this disease and dying. And what the movie I sort of explained the story logically to you there, but what the movie does is it very poetically taps into the emotions, and so you sort of I obviously wouldn't know what it feels like to lose a daughter. That would be horrific, and but it takes you to that. It gives you the two opposites of the absolute beauty of life, and the polar opposites, the absolute most beautiful parts of life and the absolute most tragic parts of life, and juxtaposes them. And it has this perfect song that goes along with it, called "On the Nature of Daylight," where Max Richter explained it he tried to use he explained it he was trying to use the darkest metals to and constructing them in a way that would create light, which is what it is. It's a very grieving song. I don't know if that's right, a very sad song, and it's extremely poetic, and you get the huge attachment and beauty of having a daughter, and then the huge tragic grief and loss of losing a daughter, and that's just done poetically, and that's what I'm sort of learning to do. Essentially, what's happened, the way I went about exploring this is I started with cinematography, learned that wasn't the way I want to achieve it. Gone to script writing because I was more to do a story. Read through a lot of script writing books, about 4 or 5, until I got to Hero of the Thousand Faces, and the Hero of the Thousand Faces was the book that I think finally explained to some extent what was going on. And essentially what the book is Joseph Campbell, he studied basically tons and tons of religions from around the world, um, religions and mythologies from around the world, and compared to them together to find these like fundamental um, pillars of, which run through all of them. And he sort of says they all tell, the hero with 1,000 faces. It's the idea is it's all these stories, sort of tell one story, and the reason that's what happens is because stories come from humans, and mythology and religions are sort of, you find them in every society, and they're sort of, this pillar and this glue that, one, it teaches the younger generation how to act, and so and it forms them in who they're going to be. So societies that survive are the societies that have good religions and mythologies, and and the ones that don't die. And so these mythologies and religions last for thousands of years, and so you can sort of think of these stories as having, in even a evolutionary sense, this element to them that, one, captures human emotion. I don't know what we call it. Captivates the person listening to it, and also changes them and directs them in a way that will help them and their society live on and propagate. And so that sort of gave me some meaning to the stories. Understanding why they exist, they sort of mold us and guide us towards what I would think is ultimately, whatever you want to call it, utopia. What's it called? Enlightenment, the equilibrated state. Whether this is real or not is sort of not the issue. It's the idea that there's this transcendent heaven, whatever, transcendent goal above all of it, and that all these stories, they're all the same because they're all aiming for this transcendent goal up here, and that's why the society survive, because they have the highest goal in mind. Anyway, I think that is really interesting. There's probably a lot of arguments against it, for it, whatever. And I don't know, it thoroughly engages me at the moment, so and I know nothing about it, so I'm essentially going to pursue that as much as I can going forward, trying to understand everything I can about it, and in the meantime also creating stories as I go along, trying to develop my craft, which is what I'm doing at the moment. So back to the original issue, which is what this video is all about, is this war between Orthodox Christianity and this, and I haven't explained this yet, the Jordan Peterson Christianity. So, going off, Campbell's interpretation of, what stories are and how they work and what these pillars are, Jordan Peterson does the same thing, but I think just goes 25 steps further, and he's very inspired by people like Jung and Nietzsche and Adler and all these people, so maybe it's their ideas and he's the only one I've heard it from, but putting that aside from now, so Jordan Peterson does the same thing, but he looks at these stories in the same way, like, how the heck do these stories captivate, because his original dive into storytelling was like understanding how stories and narratives work and how humans are embedded in narratives. Was he was trying to figure out what the heck happened with the Cold War. Why was there people literally hell bent on, you know, were willing to wipe like millions and millions of people out, just cause extreme suffering and death for their, ideology or narrative, whatever you want to call it. And that's how he went through. That's how he got into trying to understand narratives and whatever. But he takes it. He tries to attack it from all angles. Biology. I wouldn't say philosophy. I mean philosophy a bit. What's the thing? The study of being. Starts with PH. What Heidegger was the one who popularized, I think. I forget. Um, Psychology, and he just takes every angle he can: psychology, neuropsychology. I can't name them all, and I'm obviously not an expert on all of them, but he attacks it from every single angle. And his basic claim is, like, how he looks at Christianity is, let's say, for the sake of argument, the what's it called? Secular worldview is sort of correct to some extent. Like, evolution is correct. The world is 4 point whatever billion years old. We came from a Big Bang. There isn't this God outside of it, beyond physics, or maybe there is, but we don't know, and so there's no real point considering that question. And just take this worldview and just trying to understand why the heck do religions emerge, and how are they like so integral to our being that we would point nuclear rockets at each other, because we disagree over communism and capitalism, or Christianity and atheism. I guess you could probably not accurate. How do they survive for tens of thousands of years? Why the heck do people line up for, around blocks to go in and watch Star Wars? Like, why does this happen? And again, that's like, and so he looks at like the Christian stories in these ways. And so his version of, because he says he's a Christian, would often be very vague about it. Oh, sorry, I got dust in my throat. But basically what he's saying is, okay, and he's looking at from more psychology, is, hey, let's take emotion like anger. And let's say so now we have science and everything, we can sort of understand anger. We're like, okay, it comes from, this part of the, I don't know, hypothalamus. I know nothing about neuropsychology. I know some of the names. It comes from this deep phylogenetic, which is like how old something is, like old in evolutionary years, part of the brain. Okay, let's take something like anger and forget science, because science has only been around in like a day, or like appeared like an hour ago in terms of like whole, universe's history. Because it's only been around 200 years. How do we understand that when before the scientific age, which is the last 20,000 years humans have existed. And so you say, take something like anger, people observe over long periods of time what people are like with the anger. And so let's say you take 100 people and you take out the similarities in how anger manifests themselves in all those 100 people. Then you get this sort of like meta person, which is like a, you could see see that meta person is sort of like some sort of deity or god, right? Because one, this anger system, it's within sort of like, I have anger within me, and it's contained in this, very small uh, skull, not relative to other human beings. Okay, I got the biggest brain. All right, don't you worry. Anyway, but it also exists in pretty much every other human being on the earth. All 7 or 8 billion of us, and all the other humans existed, which is I don't know how many billion. They also exist in all the animals, and so it's sort of this thing that's like, yeah, it's within me, it's individual to me, but it's also not individual to me. It's above me, like this anger or aggression. What do you call it? Circuit or whatever. So it's sort of this, and you could say, you know, calling it a deity or something is superstitious or whatever, but it's a decent way of understanding it. And so what they do is trying to understand these emotions, trying to understand themselves is, you know, all of us humans, we have similarities in some area. We take those meta similarities and we put them into a character. And so we have the anger character, and like, I don't know what Greek god. I know, what's the name? The dude that shoots the bow and arrow of love. Um, I, I guess you could call the Minotaur in Minos's. Okay, whatever. So there'll be a representation of like the god of anger, and he might be represented in a demon-looking dude, and then there's the one of love, and there's you know all these different sort of gods, um, and so they make stories about them, and you learn about them, and you understand. Okay, this is how anger manifests itself. This is what controls anger. This is what makes anger worse. This is what controls the anger god. This is what these are the sacrifices I need to make to the anger god to appease it. And I might think that's a dumb idea. I don't know how much battery I have left. Probably a lot. And so you do these for all the basic psychological systems, right? Anger, love, hunger, lust, whatever. But then humans aren't like that, because we're all these spirits at once. Spirits. All these deities live within us, these psychological deities. And they sort of order themselves in a hierarchy. So, maybe someone on the street comes up to me and starts like annoying me and bugging me. And firstly, the deity of politeness comes forward and tries to deal with them that way, and that doesn't work, so it sort of goes down in the hierarchy, and a little aggression mixed with a little politeness comes in, and then this other, and then that doesn't work, or that works or something, and then this next deity comes in and tries to use its solutions and stuff, and Jordan Peterson calls it sub-personalities. All makes sense in the different ways you call these psychological phenomena to understand. But you sort of have these groups of deities and how they organize themselves. And so you can take that hierarchy and you take all of them together, and it creates a sort of bigger, more complete deity. And so And that's, as the stories become more complex, that's what these deities are. That they're sort of a mix of these spirits, and they're trying to figure out what is the right mix of these spirits to be the ultimate, to live your life the best way you can. Um, and so then you have, you keep doing that. And so where am I going with this? So you look at, so basically people did this, and they did it for thousands of years, you know. And the societies with the best, meta spirits, and the ones which they modeled themselves off, would win. Jordan Peterson says that, like, through, like, sort of evolution, monotheism rose over polytheism, because what he thought with polytheism is you have all these different gods and they're sort of fighting it out. And you can think of that literally in, all these societies, they're all worshipping different gods and trying to understand and sacrifice for these gods the way, I sacrifice for my anger by not putting myself in situations which would make my anger worse. You can sort of see that as a sacrifice. Not a good example, but all these, until one of the, like, most refined deities which a society built themselves around rose on top. And so while he, excuse me, and so he looks at Christianity like it's something like that. Where you have, the figure of Jesus Christ, who is, an attempt at the ultimate ideal and deity that people worship. Man, my nose is so itchy. I'm so sorry. And that's a long-winded way of saying that's sort of his idea of what God is, and then he goes into a lot more detail of what that sort of represents and why God survived all this way, and and how it all links into biology and ecology and stuff. And how at the start I said, you take a secular worldview and you look at it like this. Well, so Jordan Peterson sort of goes that secular reason and logic to figure out how religion works, and then sort of comes out the other side to, I guess, justify, in a sense, how I explained the idea of a deity as like a psychological phenomenon that is within all of us, and sort of builds that onto how complex psychological phenomena are, into justifying that God is sort of like the God they explain in like how the Christians explain it, which atheists think is ridiculous, where God is sort of this omniscient being that is beyond us. He explains in much more depth and detail in there, and I think something to do with psychedelics and consciousness mixes in there well, because we have no idea how they work, and you can sort of hide God in there, and he explains it better, so I guess listen to him. So, with this 29-minute video that sort of explains in the best way I can explain right now, which isn't great, what Jordan Peterson's view on Christianity is, and a view which I find really interesting and really engaging, and something I really want to study more of, and has got me thinking tons more about how Christianity, not even Christianity, all religions function and work, and how I kind of want to be a part of. And so I thought, going back to my problem is I don't really have any friends, and I would really like to commit myself to a community. I thought finding a community where, you all come around this one ideal of trying to do your best to achieve this impossible ideal, that in doing so would make the world a better place. And that's sort of, what what most religions are. And Orthodox being so, tightly aligned, and, this idea of, I was talking about the symbolic worldview, and basically what that is, these psychological phenomena. Essentially what they do is they're like motivational drives. It's like within us, and those motivational drives create thoughts. Those thoughts are sort of symbols for that motivational drive, and through art we can extend those symbols and make them more accurate and put them into stories and whatnot. I don't think I'm explaining this very good, but it's so dusty down here. I hate it. Maybe it's hay fever or something. And I guess the Orthodox Christians have a good way of doing that. The reason I don't want to go to Orthodox churches, they have a very strict view on what God is. No, I'm getting a sore throat. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll continue this video tomorrow. But yeah, they have a very strict view of God with it. It's not really like Jordan Peterson's. They would call him a heretic, not in a mean way. Or like Jonathan Pejero, which is one of Jordan Peterson's friends, calls him a heretic, but it's like in fun, but he really means it as well. Because his view of God and creation is wrong. But I'll explain that tomorrow. I'm going to go to bed now. Thanks for watching.